Good morning. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. It is Tuesday, December 26th. Obviously, we are obviously the day after Christmas. Ari, first off, how you doing? Obviously, we're just going to get into our recaps in a little bit, but just want to ask you, how was your weekend? We had a fun weekend full of interesting NBA. We had a fun NBA Christmas for some, and then obviously some very eventful games throughout the weekend throughout the NFL. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Can't complain. Like you said, a lot of fun, close, interesting games this past weekend across all sports. Um, yeah, a tough loss for Arizona on Saturday in double overtime against FAU, but they stayed at 4 in the AP poll, which I was a little bit surprised about. But yeah, a lot of fun NFL games. Yesterday and on Christmas and stuff. The past couple of days. Not the game we expected, I think, last night between the Niners and Ravens, but Niners are still, at the top. And then we had we'll just get right into the recap, I guess.
Yeah, obviously, might as well get into it. Obviously, first, we hope everyone out there had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays these past few days. But we're going to get into our full recap. This is obviously from continuing all the way from Friday all the way to yesterday. First, I'm going to go with my Saturday. Actually, no, I'll go with Friday first with UCF and Georgia Tech. Look, I just thought offense was going to show up. UCF's offense did not show up, and Georgia Tech actually ended up winning 27-17. First half, the over was looking so great, but then, the offense just slowed down in the second half, which is going to be, continuing to another pick I have today. So, just a tough look, just a tough read. The Georgia Tech, offense came to play. UCF's did not. Their Georgia Tech's defense actually, held their own. So, you can't really do much, but give your hats off to Georgia Tech, just playing better football on Friday. But then going to Saturday, I'll take the 1-on-1 day. I had the Steelers, obviously, +3. That was a great outright win for the Steelers. Obviously, Mike Tomlin is a home dog. We talked about how he is very successful at that position, And the Bengals were kind of due for regression. They were in a bad spot, obviously, on the road in Pittsburgh. And then obviously that defense we talk about, how much pressure they forced. Obviously, Jake Browning, I think he had 2 or 3 interceptions that game, just did not really get the offense moving down the field. And then once it did, turnovers or something, just, to give the ball back to the Steelers or, turnover on downs or whatnot. It was just not a good look for that Jake Browning offense in the Cincinnati Bengals. So Steelers +3 was a great win. And then San Jose State, look, I thought they were the better team. I thought they were looking like the better team in terms of all the opt-outs, but Coastal Carolina wanted it more, and that was just a bad look on me. I'm not even gonna take that. Those were some bozo picks. I just can't believe San Jose State just did not show up as well in the Hawaii Bowl. And then going on to Sunday, oh my gosh, talk about a horrible Christmas Eve. I mean, the Packers and Texans. I mean, the Packers, the line was going down, and it was going down because of the injuries, and it started at 5, and then it crept all the way down to 3.5, and then I saw it as low as 3, and then obviously we saw the Packers only won by a field goal, 33-30, so -5 did not hit, but obviously if you got it all the way down to -3, you can get that push potential right there. But I thought the Packers, they were looking so good, and then obviously out of nowhere, Bryce Young and that offense just, finally had a reason to play for. They didn't have a reason to play for 3 quarters, but then in the fourth quarter, they found that reason to play for. So it was just a tough look there. And then the Texans just got the Amari Cooper experience happened. That's what happened to the Texans. The Amari Cooper experience happened. And for those who did start him in fantasy, unlike myself, who benched him in a crucial Sacco tournament game in another league that I almost lost. Thank you, DeAndre Swift. But the Texans +3, that was just never a good look. The Texans offense, they were getting shut down. The Browns defense has been one of the best defenses in all of football continuously all season, and it was just not a good look. Case Keenum, not really getting that offense going. And then on the other side, it was just tough day for that secondary because Amari Cooper was just lighting them up, obviously setting the franchise record, 265 receiving yards and a touchdown. He had 10 receptions. I think 50 plus fantasy points for all the people out there. It was just a ridiculous day for Amari Cooper and the Texans. Just not a good look there. And then I did have, obviously, we did post our Christmas card. I will get into that recap just a little bit right here. We had our 3 plays for Christmas for me. I had each play in the NFL. First, in that first game in the Las Vegas Raiders-Chiefs game, I had the under 40, and I will gladly take that. I was getting a little sweaty, obviously, with that Mahomes last-second touchdown, and then obviously I saw the Raiders obviously drive down the field, but as soon as they drove down the field and they just got that first down, it was just taking the knee, and that was just a good sweat-free win. I thought, obviously, all the Chiefs minus 10.5 bettors and all those people, they were, very, very sad Christmas morning to see their bet slip be 0-0-0. But obviously, it was great to see that under hit. I kind of expected this was a bad spot for kind of both teams, a very windy game. We saw Harrison Butker, I think, miss 2 field goals, 1 or 2. So it was just a really bad, windy game. And then in terms of the Raiders offense, it was pretty anemic itself, with Aiden O'Connell only having 62 passing yards in the first quarter and not having a single passing yard for the rest of the entire game. So it was a really just ugly offensive game for both sides. But a pick 6 by Jack Jones and then the fumble, that kind of tells you the story. Just the Raiders making the right plays at the right time.
And McConnell didn't even complete a pass after the first quarter, which is kind of insane to win a game like that.
Exactly. Aiden O'Connell didn't even complete a pass after the first quarter, and they still won the game, just showing you how just ugly that game was defensively. No, I mean offensively for both teams, but defense somehow wins games, and that's how you got to do it sometimes. So that was the Raiders, great win over there. Going to the next game, I had the Eagles minus 12.5, bumped it up to 13.5, and this Eagles team, they're looking more and more fraudulent as the weeks go on. It's just whether it's the secondary or whatnot happens, it was just they helped the Giants, I would say, claw their way back and make it as close as it was. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor coming in the second half and having a little bit of a spark to make a little bit of a comeback and almost tie this game up with the potential game tying drive, but the clock runs out after Darren Waller catches that ball at the 30-yard line, and the Eagles only win by 8, so they don't cover the 13.5-point spread. But this Eagles team, they definitely let the Giants get in this game, so you can't really blame anyone else but the Eagles. And yeah, it was just a tough look. I mean, I will say, I am glad that it was definitely a very entertaining game. I didn't want it to be because for the historical past, the Eagles and Giants, have been a lot of beatdowns from the Eagles, and this game was actually pretty entertaining to see, a very close game. So I'll gladly take that as well. And then finally, I had the under in that Sunday Night Football game, and the streak is unfortunately dead at 24. The unders for Monday Night Football have officially ended. The last night game, obviously, that went over. And if you would have told me that game over and the Ravens won by that much, I would have been like, you know what, fair game, fair game. I mean, Brock Purdy, Mr. MVP, throwing 4 interceptions. I mean, hey, you know what? Sometimes it was just bad spot, I think, for the Niners. Obviously, the Ravens defense is for real, and we haven't talked about how these defenses have been. Especially, you can kind of credit every single defense in the AFC North, whether it's the Steelers, the Browns, or the Ravens. Each one of those three, they always play with the high intensity. So, and then this Ravens team, obviously, playing with something to play for, being undermanned. And we saw after the post game, we saw the Lamar Jackson and Mike Florio comment talking about how they were massive underdogs, calling him Mike Flores at one point. So it just, the Ravens did take that a little personal, and obviously they just came out, played they were the better team. Obviously, their offense didn't really do much, but when their defense forces 5 interceptions throughout that game, obviously one came from Sam Darnold, but that was on the last drive of the game. 4 interceptions for Purdy. It takes them out of the game, because when you turn over the ball, it's hard for your offense to stay on the field. So, and try to get back on the field, after that. So, unders, the under was looking pretty great throughout that first half, but then, the turnover started to pile up and it just started to get ugly for Brock Purdy and the Niners offense. So, you know what, I will gladly take the fact that the under did not hit, because the Niners lost. So that's always great to see as a Seahawks fan myself. But you know what, 1-2 day yesterday, we're going to hopefully move on from that Christmas disaster I had. You see all those L's on the screen. Ari, I'll stop my yapping. How did you do this weekend in your best bets?
Yeah, it was a pretty decent weekend for me. Start on Friday. Heat took care of business at home, like I talked about, against Atlanta. And I may or may not be fading Atlanta again today. The Heat won by 9. They pretty much controlled most of the game. It was close into the fourth quarter, but I felt pretty confident with them throughout most of the game. Then moving on to the NFL, the Lions and Vikings went over. I think they had 54 points, so it didn't soar over, but they were already at, I think, 31 by halftime, so it was already looking good. And then the second half, the defense just stepped up a little bit and whatnot, but it still was able to go over with the Lions winning 30-24. Touchdowns galore from Montgomery, Gibbs, Jefferson, Osborne. I think Amon-Ra scored as well, I believe. So that was a pretty exciting game that went over. The one loss on Sunday, Seahawks got hooked. They won by 3. Definitely, what we saw from them in the second half is what I thought we would see from them the whole game. They scored, I think it was 3 points in the first half, and then the offense finally picked it up in the second half. Second straight week, they had a game-winning drive by a different quarterback, so that was pretty cool. So obviously, us being Seahawks fans, it was huge. Moves back into the wild card spot with the Vikings losing. So even though I lost the bet, it was still a fun game. And then Dolphins barn burner against the Cowboys, game-winning field goal. The line was obviously even. I expected it to be a close game throughout, which it was. Definitely a bit lower scoring than I thought it would be. But Dolphins pulled it out in the end after the Cowboys took the lead. Dolphins came back and kicked game-winning field goal the final seconds. So that was a pretty good up to that point. And then Christmas Day, I also went 1-2, not as good. Bucks, first half -1.5, they got crushed. Knicks showed out at home on Christmas Day. Giants Eagles over 43, soared over. And then the Niners first half, I think Purdy threw I think 3 of his picks in the first half, I believe, something like that. Maybe 2 or something. He threw at least 2 or 3 in the first half. As Seahawks fans, I was happy to see them lose, but I thought that they were going to win, but I'm happy to be wrong. So I think that's 4-3 overall from Friday to Monday, so not too bad. But we'll look to be better this week.
Yeah, we always like to just talk about the positives. I mean, Heat at home. I also had the Heat yesterday as well, -3, just as a separate bet. And they definitely won by 9. Heat at home, definitely going to be a good wagon. That Lions-Viking game, that was a very entertaining game. Obviously, Nick Mullins trying to get that game-winning drive, but gets intercepted by Detroit. Obviously, that cashes the over. We're talking about that Seahawks again. The hook right there, -3.5, that was tough for it. But a win is a win, and we'll gladly take that as Seahawk fans. And then, Dolphins money line in the entertaining game of the Sunday slate. Obviously, Dolphins pretty much coming back after the Cowboys went on that drive, lead 2019. Dolphins just waste time off the clock running the football. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy coming from the Cowboys talking about, the holds and the penalties and whatnot. But, at the end of the day, if your offense can't move down the field efficiently, it's going to be tough for you. So, Jason Myers kicking the game-winning field goal, and the Dolphins do win. That's a nice win for you as well. And then you mentioned yesterday, just tough day. Bucks, just did not shoot the ball. Dame, I think he went 0 for 5 in his first 5 shots. It was just tough first half. You're not shooting consistently in the first half. It's going to be tough, to even just win the first half. So that was tough for him. And then the Giants, then, Eagles game, that definitely soared over. That was nice to see, Giants, crawling themselves back into that game after, Eagles had a nice 17. I think they're up 20 to, I believe, 20-7 or 17-7 like that. So, nice to see the Giants come back and make it an interesting game to cash that over for you. And then, the Niners, we call that emotional hedging. You bet that obviously the Niners first half, and you mentioned Purdy throwing 2 or 3 interceptions in the first half, but we're Seahawks fans. we definitely like to see when the Niners do not look like their proper form, as people like to say. So, definitely, we'll take that, as you said, 4-3 throughout the weekend, but we do like to be better this week as we get ready for the new year. And obviously, huge games coming up soon for college football. In a week, we have the college football playoff in about 6 days. We're going to get our best bets those soon. But today, we're going to focus on our best bets just for today. I have 3 bowl games, obviously, each one. I'm going to go into first. I think this game starts in about, yeah, you better get this pick in soon. First kickoff is in about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm taking this game to go over 42.5. That's minus 125 on DraftKings. Whoa, I can't talk. Between Bowling Green State and Minnesota in the Quick Lane Bowl. Look, you look at these two teams. Minnesota's 5-7. They have a great offense led by Darius Taylor, their star running back. And Bowling Green cannot stop the run. Bowling Green, they're outside the top 100 in rushing success rate. Pretty much, they can't stop the run consistently. And when you have Darius Taylor, the star back, kind of what Minnesota will be leaning on a lot, because I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Alhan Kalaya Manus. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The Minnesota starting quarterback, he's in the portal. And then the backup, Drew Vioto, he's in the portal. So they got a third string guy. And when you have a new guy entering the system, and Darius Taylor said he is going to play, which is huge for Minnesota, they're just going to hand the ball off to him. So in Minnesota's case, they're just going to hand off the ball. But Minnesota, they can't stop the run at all. And for Bowling Green, they're pretty much going to be retaining all of their offense that they had throughout the season. Obviously, Terrion Stewart, their star running back, got injured early, but it doesn't matter. They still have Tayron Keefe, who averages 6.4 yards per carry. And when you pair that with a Minnesota defense that allows about 5.5 yards per carry on the ground, it's not going to be pretty. If I did have a lean, I also like Bowling Green State, potentially on the points and on the money line. I just think Bowling Green State will run the clock out because I know Minnesota can't stop the run, but it all depends if Bowling Green can or can't. Obviously, like I said, they can't do it consistently, but I like this over. I just think it's going to be a very high-scoring game between these two teams. And especially indoors. This is obviously at Quick Lane in the Quick Lane Bowl, so this is at Ford Field in Detroit. I just like these two teams to go over. So give me that first game to go over between Bowling Green State and Minnesota at over 42.5. The next game in the next bowl game, I'm taking Rice on the points here in the first responder bowl at plus 4.5. When you look at this Texas State Bobcat team, right, and how they are very, very good offensively, right? They thrive on their offense. They have in terms of the ranks, they have a top 219 in the rushing success, line yards, passing success. They finish drives, and that is what Texas State relies on so much, because their defense is not great. Their secondary is very, very vulnerable, and that's what the Owls will feed off of, especially whoever the quarterback is, because obviously, even if it's Daniels or I forgot who their backup is, the thing about Rice is that they can throw the ball. Right, and when you're playing a defense that can't guard, whether it's man, zone, or what kind of coverage the secondary presents itself, it's going to be a tough day anyway. For Texas State, especially when Rice can throw the ball through both coverages, and they finished top 55 in PFF coverage and tackle rating. So they're on the secondary. They are a top secondary. So if Texas State is going to be able to get in this game, they're going to have to rely on some kind of magic, to kind of keep them in this game against this good secondary in Rice. And then obviously on the other side, Rice, the ability to throw the ball downfield, that's what they lean on the most. And Texas State with a very vulnerable secondary. That line has gone down all the way down to 3.5. I took it at 4.5. I think that's about minus 130. So if you do want to bump it down to 4 or 3.5, I'll get there. But I just think Rice makes it a field goal game at the minimum. I think it's going to be one of the more entertaining games. If I had a lean, I also like the over, but I think Rice is definitely going to make this a very, very entertaining game. And then finally, I forgot, is this the Guaranteed Rate Bowl? But this is the bowl game in Phoenix at Chase Field between Kansas and UNLV. I'm just taking the first half total over 34.5. This is kind of a similar play to that Georgia Tech UCF game I talked about on Friday. But this time we're just taking the first half, because that game is pretty similar. The first half over cashed, but the total game didn't, because the offense is slowed down. I like this one here. When you look at these two offenses, UNLV here, they will run any kind of formation they want to. that's the thing with UNLV. They have a versatile offense where they can have, whether it's jumbo set, I formation, or 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, whatever you want. They are very versatile in their playbook, and I think they expose a Kansas defense that doesn't really know how to adjust, whether it's in a man of motion or whatnot. This is a really bad look for Kansas in terms of how their defense has played. Obviously, we know the Big 12 and how their defenses have never been up to par, and I think UNLV's offense, with all of the shifting they can do, I think they can make it a fun game throughout that first half. And then Kansas with one of the most elite offenses in the country. I mean, obviously, there's no Jaden Daniels, but he did say he's coming back next year. And then, whether it is, Devin Neal, the running back position, or Jason Bean at the quarterback position, they're still great in terms of their offense. They know how to get down the field. They know how to break tackles. They know how to have the big explosive plays. And the thing that makes Kansas really good is the fact that they have the counter option. They use a lot of that counter running back outside, running back lanes to create and go upfield. And that's what, UNLV will be having a hard time stopping, because they can't really stop the run. And so I just think this game is going to be more exciting in the first half, and that's why I'm taking UNLV Kansas over 34.5 throughout the first half, and especially with Kansas, being at the pass as well, compared to UNLV, who has not the greatest pass success. They rate outside the top 100 in pass success, just not being able to stop the pass and be able to stop those drives down the field. I think it's just going to make for an exciting first half. I didn't like the full game over at 69 or 69.5. It was getting a little too high, and I said, I'm going to just take the first half here. So that line did recently get bumped down. I take it there immediately at 34.5. Those are my 3 picks today. Bowling Green, Minnesota over 42.5. Rice plus 4.5, and then Kansas UNLV first half. I'm taking that over 34.5. Ari, what are you cooking up? What do you have on this Tuesday?
Yeah, just one NBA pick for me. I was originally on the Bulls over Hawks, but that line's moving kind of in a weird way in the past 30 minutes to an hour or so. And the Bulls are kind of both the Bulls and Hawks just aren't very good. So I'm just going to stay off that. I'm going to the Thunder, and it's a matchup between 2 of the top 3 teams in the West. Thunder hosting Minnesota. Both teams, obviously have been really good this year. The Thunder, though, coming off, they got blown out by the Lakers at home on Saturday. I'm taking them here in a bounce back spot. I think it's the first time these 2 teams have played, the Thunder, Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota's number 1 in the West. They've been one of the best teams in the whole NBA so far, and the Thunder have been, right behind them. As far as nobody's in the injury report, everybody should be healthy, so both teams should be a full go. Thunder at home, they lost at home to Lakers on Saturday, but traditionally they're a pretty good team at home. Minnesota's been good in the road this year as well, so not really a huge edge in that way. But I'm just taking the Thunder here at home. Obviously money line safer, minus 130, but I think they can win by 3+ here at home against Minnesota. I
mean, that's just a simple play. We like that. You mentioned the Bulls-Hawks game. That line's getting a little fishy. Don't play it. As we like to talk about. If it's something that you don't like, just don't tail it. But Thunder -2. You mentioned this team at home a lot better. Obviously, you mentioned that Lakers game, but LeBron dropped 40 for God's sakes. I mean, that was like his highest game of the season. So that you can't really do much when LeBron goes off. And but I like the Thunder in the spot -2 at home. Like to keep it simple. -1 play today. Going back to my plays, just the 3 games on the I have just the 3 games for the bowl games. Bowling Green, Minnesota over 42. Rice plus 4.5, and Kansas UNLV first half over 34.5 on the points. Those are my 3 picks. You can find all of these picks on our Twitter below at AKP Sports Talk. We will have our full cards posted. Mine will be posted as soon as this video is ended, and Ari's will be posted later today. And we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of AKP Sports Talk. We'll be having, obviously we got some college basketball returning. I think we have 1 game between Morgan State and Virginia. Woohoo! But we do got 4 exciting bowl games tomorrow as well. A little bit of NBA. We will get ready for our Thursday night game, obviously between the Jets and the Browns. We may have some stuff for that, but obviously we'll be having a lot more stuff coming in this weekend with New Year's Eve football and then New Year's Day college football. But that's going to be later this week. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of AKP Sports Talk. That is Ari. I'm Kirby. We'll be back tomorrow for another episode. Peace out. Have a great day, guys.